Hi, I'm Jada,
I'm Kristen.
and today we're doing a movie review for Wicked!
Wicked!
So let's just get right into it. Starting off with characters, let's start off with our stars of the show. I'm gonna start with Glinda because I absolutely loved her. Obviously, I love the pink, very cute, paying an homage to the original Glinda with her big pink poofy dress. She was like the stereotypical popular girl, very prim and proper, little perfect little princess that always gets her way. And when she doesn't, she's like, "Ah, like, what do you mean?" Like, tossing her hair, basically just like the queen of the school. Everyone loves her, and she can do no wrong. And she was also really funny, offering some comedy with how dramatic she was, like when her friends carried her away after Madame Morrible wanted to take Elphaba in as her peer, as her student, to teach her, more of the magic and stuff. Whereas Glinda was like, "That was supposed to be me. What do you mean?" But overall, she was just, as the film progressed, starting to show more kindness to Elphaba as they were becoming friends. She was really just, honestly, she was great. She was very funny. And of course, we can't talk about Glinda without our other star of the show, Miss Elphaba. Sort of the outcast, just because she's green, everyone's like, that's kind of weird. But she never let that bring her down. She's like, I know I'm different, and if people can't accept that, then whatever. Like, she'd always do things, even though she knew she was going to be judged, she still did it. Like her very unique dancing at the Ozdust Ball, she still did it. She wore the witch hat, even though it was kind of a setup to be made fun of. She always stood up for what was right. She always spoke her mind. Like when people put the graffiti for Dr. Dilliman saying animals should be seen, not heard, she knew that was wrong and helped him clean up the things he had spilled, or saving the lion cub that they had in the cage. Her final stand against the wizard, obviously no one else wanted to stand up to him, but she was like, this guy is an imposter, like, I'm going to do something. So I liked that she always stood up for what was right, always very standing up for other people, like her sister, when everyone was kind of like trying to do everything for her and just like she can do it for herself. And overall, just I liked watching her loosen up as the film went. She was more like secluded, kind of kept to herself. But then as her and Glinda started to become friends, you saw she started to gain a little more confidence to the point where she could make that stand against the wizard. And overall, she's just a very strong character, and I thought she was a really cool one.
So, to get into the rest of the characters that are kind of more on the sidelines, there's the first character I want to talk about is Fiyero, which is played by Jonathan Bailey. I thought he did an excellent job. He overall is kind of the more playboy, flirty. He's at first Glinda's love interest, but he also has flirty tension with Elphaba. He presents himself as kind of shallow on the surface, but beyond that, there's more to his character. He's never judged Elphaba, even from her green skin, from their first interaction. He's all about just kind of living life and dancing through it. And he just kind of, he's a vibrant personality, and he doesn't kind of conform as to the other people of Oz how they usually think. And that's why he doesn't really connect with Glinda as much as you first think that he would. And for other characters, there's Bach, who's a munchkin from Munchkinland, who has a crush on Glinda, who later goes out with Nessarose, being prompted to by Glinda. And that kind of leads Nessarose on a little bit of a villain arc. And then speaking of Nessarose, she's Elphaba's sister, who is disabled. She's wheelchair bound. And due to that, she kind of has a strive for wanting independence. She doesn't want people to think that she's weak because she's in a wheelchair. She's all about being independent, kind of doing her own thing, wanting the normal life experience of going to Shiz University as the other students. She doesn't want people to treat her as she being disabled. And because of that, Elphaba takes a lot of care of her, but also lets her do her own thing and gets defensive if other people try to make her feel like she needs their help. And then there's Madame Morrible, who is the headmistress, who kind of guides Elphaba through her sorcerer journey, and she helps lead her to the wizard. And then finally, there is the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain.
Moving right along, I personally loved the story of the film. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've never seen the Wicked musical, but I'm a really big fan of The Wizard of Oz. So it was really interesting to see that Glinda and Elphaba were never truly enemies. They actually used to be friends. I mean, they started off kind of butting heads, but by the end of the film, they were really good friends. And it was interesting to see that Elphaba wasn't like actually evil. She was labeled the Wicked Witch of the West by the wizard. And then Glinda kind of took on that role of Glinda the Good, the people's princess that this good versus evil dynamic, but I really liked watching their friendship evolve throughout the film. You know, they started off butting heads, but then after the Ozfest ball, they were basically besties. So it was nice to watch them go on that emotional journey together. And Elphaba at the end being like, "Come with me," and she almost did, but then one of the guards stopped her, and then Glinda was just like, "You go, girl. You go take this stand," because she kind of, I'm sure she wanted to do the right thing, but she had already built up this whole reputation of being perfect and following the rules, and she really wanted to become a sorceress. So, by staying with Madame Morrible, obviously she would go on to become a sorceress and be the people's princess and stuff. But overall, I thought the film was really good. I liked all of the little different plots that were going on with like Bach and like being this hopeless little romantic for Glinda, or Fiero having that thing for Elphaba, and Glinda's just blissfully unaware to what's going on with her man. But overall, I really liked it. I liked that Elphaba, did what no one else could and took the stand against the wizard to try to figure out what the heck was going on in Oz.
So I come at it from a little bit of a different perspective, as I grew up in New York, so I went to a lot of Broadway plays. So I did see Wicked on Broadway, and I've always kind of had a passion for musical theater, so it's right under my belt. And I remember when I first watched Wicked for the first time, I left absolutely stunned. And so I came into this movie with a lot of big expectations, and absolutely all of them were met. And the main kind of gist of the movie is, if you don't really know, it's about a woman named Elphaba who's green, who attends university with her sister Nessa Rose. And there she gets kind of taken under the wing of Madame Morrible, who's a headmistress, and she wants to guide her through her sorcery powers, as Elphaba has powers that she cannot control and that only come out when she's angry. So then Glinda, who also has powers, wishes to kind of be also guided by Madame Morrible. And so she kind of forms this enemy turned friendship with Elphaba to try and both get in Madame Morrible's good graces, and they kind of just mutually help each other in different ways that they both need. And the whole thing is just kind of twists and turns of just what you don't expect, what's behind the curtain. The story of Oz just kind of flipped around from what you usually know about it. It's completely different, and it just kind of strips away everything that you think you know about Dorothy, the Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man, all those characters. You get introduced to them, their backstories, how they came to be, and you just kind of learn that the Wizard of Oz was basically a lie. And now let's get to the directing, editing, and set design portion. So my review was the director, John M. Chu. I'm very familiar with his work. He's directed two of my favorite movies, which is Step Up 2, The Streets, and Step Up 3, also In the Heights, which is my favorite musical of all time. And that I thought that whole musical was incredibly well done. So I knew the second that this project was in his hands, I knew that it was going to be amazing, and it absolutely was. He knows how to direct choreography really well. He knows how to truly capture movement and dancing and performances in all the work that he does. So I thought it was really incredible. Also, Crazy Rich Asians he did too, which is one of my favorite films as well, where he knows how to handle also a complex story with a lot of characters and make sure that everyone is very well fleshed out. And I feel like all those things from different aspects of those movies really carried into this one. And then as for the set designs, I don't really have too much, but I thought that people were kind of really rushing to hate before the movie came out, saying that everything looked very lifeless or that it looked super CGI, and that people weren't really going to get that feel for the Wizard of Oz and they expected it to be very colorful. But I think watching the movie, it proved everyone wrong. I think everything looked lively and complex, and I love that we're bringing back actually designing sets for movies. Like, I hate the whole complete CGI thing. I think where CGI was done, it was done well, but I like that they just didn't rely on CGI even though they could.
So I totally agree with you. I thought the set design was incredible because I saw a lot of behind the scenes. They actually planted all those flowers. They created Munchkinland. Like, they created the world of the Wizard of Oz. Like, you could actually go to Shiz University, go to Munchkinland, go to the Emerald City. So it was really incredible to think of like the size of everything, because those were real buildings. That was insane. And then obviously some CGI was included, but not too much. They included obviously the talking animals and the flying monkeys. Those looked really good. I loved Glinda's iconic little bubble that she came down on. Also, a lot of the lighting was really good. Like in The Wizard and I, when Elphaba's singing, she's singing about getting degreenified, as she puts it, and she momentarily loses her green hue, but then it comes back. Or in Popular, where Glinda's singing and it's all bright pink, and she has all these little lights and her little trinkets that open, where she's singing about you'll be good at sports and the balls pop out. I thought that was really good. I liked all the practical effects that were used, like those. The choreography for the dancing and stuff was really good as well. And then I also loved all the little references in there to The Wizard of Oz. For example, when Glinda was singing Popular, she had some red high heels and she clicked them 3 times in her hands, which is obviously a reference to The Wizard of Oz, with Dorothy having to click her heels 3 times, saying there's no place like home so she could go back to Kansas. Or another one of my favorite references was when Elphaba was saving the little lion cub and she put him in this little basket on the back of her bike that she was riding, which was a reference to Miss Gulch riding away with Toto on the back of her bike. And then, of course, when they went to go see the wizard, he was talking about installing this new brick road, but he didn't know what color to make it. And Glinda was like, go back to that one, the yellow brick road. And that's how the yellow brick road was born. And then, of course, there was a little cameo from Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, who, if you do not know, were the original Elphaba and Glinda for the Broadway production of Wicked. So I thought it was really nice that they were there and they each went to our new Elphaba and Glinda in sort of a passing of the torch moment. Like, you are the new Elphaba and Glinda for the new generation. And overall, I just thought editing, set design, and directing, it was all great, executed beautifully.
So next we're moving on to comedy, acting, and overall performances from each of the actors, which, to start off, everyone's talking about it, Ariana Grande is Glinda. And if you don't know much about Ariana Grande, you might be surprised. I'm like, why is she the main character of this movie? This is such an odd choice. But if you're unfamiliar, Ariana Grande actually does have a background in musical theater. She started off in 13 the Musical when she was younger, and basically for the 10 years, this woman has been on a campaign about wanting to be Glinda in Wicked. And like, there's videos from her throughout the years of singing different songs from Wicked, and her in interviews saying how badly she wanted to play Elphaba or Glinda, and then kind of leaning more towards Glinda. Literally, her first song was a rendition of the song Popular. She has basically dedicated her whole life to Wicked, and even met Kristen Chenoweth when she was younger and told her that she was going to play Glinda one day. So it was a really full circle moment from her. So going into it, I knew that she was going to give it with so much love and care and respect, and that's exactly what she did. She fully went into the character. It did not feel like you were watching Ariana Grande on the screen. It felt like you were watching Glinda. She was light, she was bubbly, she was quick with it. My audience, it was a pretty big one, and everyone was laughing all of her jokes. Everything was well comedically timed. I think just overall, she had a beautiful performance, and she really captured the essence of the character. As for Cynthia, I think she absolutely did a wonderful job as Elphaba. I think she truly lost herself in the character. I think she really embodied the root of the story, of the strength and determination of the character and what it took to be powerful and the power that she grew into. And I loved seeing her take on it. And I really felt like it was the first time that the role was played by actually a woman of color even, and I feel like it was perfectly well done because it makes so much sense for Elphaba's story that I'm almost shocked that's never happened before. That I really feel like everything that this movie did was a well selected choice for it to be truly what it could fully be in its full potential. As for other characters, my favorite role aside from the main two was Fiyero, but I am biased as Jonathan Bailey lover. He can do no wrong in my eyes, and I think that that man has the ability to make literally anyone fall in love with him, and also make it look like he is in love with literally anyone. I loved him in Bridgerton, and I feel like it perfectly carried over of that kind of suave love of like look of pining in his eye, which I feel like really helped for his interactions with Elphaba, as the chemistry between them was like palpable off the screen. It felt authentic and real, and you could really see the difference between him just kind of surface level flirting with Glinda and the genuine connection that he's had with Elphaba. And for my hot take, I am slightly disappointed in Jeff Goldblum's performance as the wizard. And listen, the wizard is a character that's kind of behind the scenes, and obviously he's supposed to be a little bit lackluster. But I feel like there's a little bit more like whimsy and wonder that's supposed to happen when you're first introduced to him. And it did just kind of feel like I was watching a Jeff Goldblum performance. I didn't really feel like I was watching the wizard. I just felt like Jeff Goldblum kind of a little bit played himself. But listen, that might be an unpopular take. I don't know, but that was my opinion on it.
So I totally agree with you. I think our two leading girls absolutely killed it. I had heard that a lot of people were worried about Ariana, which is weird because she was technically an actress first with Victorious and things like that, but she perfectly captured this bubbly and confident Glinda. It didn't feel like you said, it didn't feel like we were watching Ari. She became Glinda. She was very funny with the comedic timing of things. A scene I think about is before she sings Popular, taking off Elphaba's glasses and being like, yeah, never mind, let's put those back on. That was hilarious. Or just her like slamming down on the bed. But then also showing the more like emotional side to Glinda when she and Elphaba begun to become friends, like at the Ozdust Ball, dancing with her. And I had heard that for that scene, she actually did not learn the choreography to make it more believable. So her following along, that was actually her copying what Cynthia was doing. And then the hug they shared and those tears, those were real tears. So honestly, she fully committed. She did fantastic. As for Cynthia, she killed it. She was Elphaba. She showed that stubbornness, that determination to always do the right thing. She got more confident as the film progressed, and then also showing like just how powerful she was, or like how determined she was. The scene I think about is when she first discovers that the wizard is a total fake, taking the grimoire and just like that look in her eye, like you have no real power. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is about to make her stand. And honestly, she did great. I really felt the energy from her, the confidence, the power. Cynthia, Ari, you guys did a great job. And so did everyone in this film. I think everyone captured the essence of their character extremely well. Moving into the soundtrack for this film, it was spectacular. I think vocally, everyone killed it, which is amazing because everyone was singing live while they're singing, while they're dancing. Or I've seen behind the scene footage of Cynthia literally on a broomstick going upside down, her voice never cracking. She sounded beautiful. Starting with Ariana first, Popular, she killed it. She captured Glinda's vibes perfectly, which is interesting because when they had decided Ari was going to play Glinda, they actually came to her and they were like, well, we could change the vibe of the song so that it matches more of your mainstream music that you make. But Ari said no. She's like, I want to stay faithful to the original Broadway production. And I think that was a really good decision on her part and for Wicked as a whole, because I think she did Kristen. She did her good. She definitely vocally was beautiful with the vocals. She was killing at the choreography. She was really having fun. All the little like that, just the energy overall was really good. And then another song of hers that I think of in particular is No One Mourns the Wicked, because I did not know Ariana could hit opera notes like that. But also that entire song as a whole was just a nice little journey with like the opera and then the background singers, and then going to the one scene where it was Elphaba's mom and this mystery man turning into this more like smooth jazz, and then back into that super high opera. Really just a great song overall. It was like 7 minutes long too, but it was a wonderful 7 minutes. And then going on to Cynthia, I really liked The Wizard and I, like her first little song, like I'm so excited to meet the wizard and stuff. And she's like, one day everyone's going to be talking about me, not for the reason she would hope so, but we'll learn in part 2 what happens. If you've seen The Wizard of Oz, you know what happens. But that was a really good song. And then of course, Defying Gravity, her big moment. She's taking her stand against the wizard, and that final note that Cynthia hit, that was amazing. All while flying around on a broomstick. Honestly, these two girls absolutely killed it with the vocals, and so did everyone on the soundtrack. Honestly, really good music.
Okay, so from my perspective on the soundtrack, I completely agree with everything you said. I thought it was wonderfully done. And a standout song for me was What Is This Feeling? I think you really got to see Ariana Grande and Cynthia's voices just play off of each other, and you really saw the full-on powerhouses that both of these women are, and how they played around with each other, and kind of the contrast of both of them, as Cynthia's a little bit more of like a soulful powerhouse and Ariana Grande is more of a soprano. So I thought that their voices contrasted nicely, as well as the choreography within that bit. I feel like that's one of the reasons why that song kind of has also taken off a little bit on TikTok, with like the little just like, yes Galinda, no Galinda, like that whole little part. I thought that was so cute, and I thought even the choir on it came in perfectly. I thought overall the song was catchy and just hit perfectly when they both come together and they hit the loading. Like I thought it was wonderfully done. And for my second song that really stood out for me was Fierro's performance of Dancing Through Life. I thought that it was beautifully shot. I loved the kind of turnaround of him flirting with all the different students and him like everything kind of transitioning the library to slipping and sliding. I thought it was really cool. It kind of also reminded me of something John Chu did in Step Up. So I was like, hey, I recognize that. And it was like, I thought really brought everything together. I thought it was an interesting performance as well. I never really saw Jonathan Bailey sing before. And so I thought it was a really cool perspective to be like, wow, he actually does have a nice, like, and I was like, wow, he actually does have a really nice voice. So it was a nice surprise to kind of have that as well. And I thought overall the soundtrack was wonderfully done. And then lastly, I also cannot not talk about Defying Gravity. Obviously, I literally cried during Defying Gravity because it's such a big moment, and the song truly means something to so many people that it just had this beautiful payoff. And Cynthia's voice is just incredible. I mean, she's an absolute vocalist of a performer, and just to get to experience that and to see the raw passion, which I didn't even know that she filmed it live, like you said, was just incredible, and it literally moved me to tears. So that's all I can say about that.
Moving into the costumes for this film, they were so magical. Starting off with Glinda, I really liked her iconic the bubble dress, playing homage to the original Wizard of Oz. I really liked the layering on it, gave the skirt a lot of movement, the little sparkly bubble details, the sequins up on the top, her giant silver tiara, and her iconic big pink wand as she descends down in her bright pink bubble. I really loved that dress. I also really loved her dress at the Ozdust Ball. I really liked the ombre on it with that darker pink flowing into the orange and the yellow with the little touches of like sparkle to give it a little shimmer and shine. I liked that it looked like flowers overlapping. I thought that was really cute. I liked her little dress she wore during Popular, that bright bubblegum pink with these big poofy sleeves that once again had the flower vibes, the more like mesh kind of skirt. I liked that little detail. And I also liked that she had little matching flower hair clips that were really cute that went with her dress. And then as for Elphaba, my favorite look from her, of course, was her final outfit, the iconic witch look. She had her black hat and her big lawn sleeve black dress. And even though the entire outfit was black, they added some texture onto the top, some little different swirls and like maybe a little touch of sparkle and mesh to give it some dimension, a little bit of movement in her big black cape flowing in the wind as she's riding on her iconic broomstick that was really detailed with all the different like sticks and twigs spiraling up. And overall, every costume in this film was just beautifully designed, and I loved it.
So for my thoughts and feelings on the costumes, to start off with hair, I was really surprised. I actually really like Ariana Grande as a blonde, and everyone was hating on it and saying it washed her out. And I thought in the movie it fit perfectly. And there were some people saying they wish that they went for a darker blonde, which I feel like makes no sense for the character. I feel like everything that was supposed to be done costuming wise was done well. And I also saw some people who were upset over the pink bubble dress, saying it wasn't as intricate because obviously in the original she has really big puffy sleeves. But I feel like considering how Ariana Grande is, she's a little bit smaller. I feel like that kind of would have overall consumed her. I felt like the little strapless dress neckline and also the fluffiness instead being like right here as opposed to like on her shoulders, I feel like really paid off, and I felt like it complemented Ariana Grande well, and I felt like it really adapted to her version of Glinda and not just trying to remake whatever was in the original. As for Elphaba's costuming, I did feel like it stayed kind of consistent, the darker colors. I do like how her costuming was showcasing kind of the transition of her friendship with Glinda. I like that the use of like her normal costume, and then the one scene after Popular where she's talking to Fiyero and she has like a little pink like flower in her hair, which contradicts completely like her outfit and doesn't match like anything at all that she's wearing, but you could tell that she's just kind of being influenced by Glinda. And then the hat obviously coming from Glinda and it being a moment of like being made fun of but turning into like sincerity until the kind of the ending when she gets that final cape piece, and that's kind of the last symbol of like her iconic outfit that we know her for. We find out it's just bits and pieces that were given to her by Glinda, and it's almost a sentiment of like love and the final version of their friendship and who they grew into. And yeah, I thought it was really well done. I thought also to add in Cynthia's wig, I also thought was beautiful. The long micro braids, I thought it looked really good. I really love that take because I know some people were wondering how the hair was gonna look with the hat, like with the hat and everything like that. And I thought they made a perfect choice on how to incorporate everything with the character. And I thought it was just beautifully well done in every aspect.
Overall, I think that every aspect of this movie was just wickedly awesome, so I rate this movie a 10 out of 10.
I agree. I also rank this movie a 10 out of 10. I laughed, I cried, I thought everything was incredibly well done, and I would recommend it to literally everyone else.
Thanks for watching our ENTV movie review of Wicked.
And make sure to stay tuned for more content from ENTV.